Yep. And make sure they have the right link then.
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
Hey, welcome to fresh set of downs. It is kind of a crazy night here where we've got a couple shows going on and a lot of guests. And I'm as always with my good friend Dave Mika, EasternPayFootball.com. Thanks so much, Dave. I mean, going to be kind of a crazy night here with all the traffic going on, but that's what the postseason's all about, right?
Absolutely. And we're gonna have some guests on tonight and kind of break down a little bit of the district playoffs and we'll probably get started here at District 3.
Yes, we will get started with District 3. But I tell you what, before we really get started, I just briefly want to touch on a little bit on Penn State football a little. I, will be covering, Penn State sports, this weekend and that, but it's been a pretty incredible ride for Penn State, and just like to get your thoughts a little bit, on the Nittany Lions as they get into really the heart of their Big Ten schedule, and this week facing Ohio State.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big question is who will be the starting quarterback. I'm not sure if they kind of mentioned that. But yeah, I mean, nice road win by Penn State last weekend, but their season is going to come down to this one game. Could they finally get over the hump and beat Ohio State? I guess we're going to find out this weekend.
Yeah, we certainly will. I think that, yeah, I'll be honest with you. I think that most people thought that the season that Penn State was having this year, they were going to have last year. They were on that logical progression where, they were kind of looking for a Big Ten championship. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I agree. And they're sitting pretty with being unbeaten, ranked third in the nation and looking like they have a great chance to get in the playoffs. And that's what you want. You want an opportunity to get in the playoffs and try to compete for a national championship. So you know, obviously they don't play Michigan this year, so this Ohio State game is huge, and we'll see.
Yeah, I think so. I think if there's a year that the stars are aligned for Penn State, you know, to uh, to get to the top of the Big Ten, it's this year. We'll have coverage live from Beaver Stadium at noon, and I can't wait. I think it's going to be just a tremendous game, and we'll see what happens, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is what you play for, so should be exciting.
All right. Well, listen, we're going to get started on the district playoffs here. We're going to start with District 3.
Yeah,
We'll bring up the bracket here. And boy, I tell you what, District 3 has got some really incredible matchups. Right now, we're looking at the 6A bracket. You can see that okay, can't you?
yep.
And, only a couple of first round games. Cumberland Valley, Governor Mifflin. Governor Mifflin, um, just kind of a surprise that they got to the playoffs this year. Also, quite honestly, the 7-10 game, Cedar Crest and Hempfield. Cedar Crest, I think, boy, a really good team. Hempfield, making it over the top to get into, the 10th seed there. But the interesting thing, Manheim Township, the number one seed, lost to Wilson
Hmm.
last week, pretty convincingly. I did broadcast the game. Yet Wilson is the number two seed,
Yeah.
and Manheim Township. the number one. What do you think about that, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, 6A, I think when it's all said and done, um, Harrisburg will have a lot to say about this bracket, but yeah, I mean, it's you have two games this week, and then you have Manheim Township waiting, and Wilson and Harrisburg, and teams like that. But you look at the bracket where Harrisburg is, um, that's in where Manheim Township is. So Wilson, you look at that lower bracket. I like Wilson to get to the finals in the lower bracket and possibly play a Harrisburg or Manheim Township.
I Wilson, I tell you what, that's a really good football team. That's as physical a football team as I've seen all year.
Hmm.
And you have to be doing something if you've beaten Manheim Township on their home field for four straight times. I mean, so,
Yeah,
considering the type of seasons that Manheim Township has had, yeah, I think that I like a final of Wilson, and we always there's always an upset special in here. Dallastown is a really good team, but I do like
absolutely.
that ultimately Wilson and Manheim Township would play, for the
Mm,
final. So let's go over to 5A in District 3 and some really interesting items here. The first thing that comes out like a freight train is the fact that all of the teams with the bye are undefeated. Have you ever seen that
yeah.
in a bracket?
Um, it doesn't happen too often, but yeah, I mean, you're right. The four teams that have a bye are all 10-0 and just waiting. And, you look at that bracket, the lower part, McDevitt kind of stands out for me. That could be, you know, um, if they get by Lower Dolphin, which we assume they will, that could be a interesting matchup, Weiser versus McDevitt. And I don't know, what's your thoughts on the upper part of the bracket there?
Exeter Township really top flight team. I mean, their loss is to 1 point. Their only loss is 1 point to Conestoga Valley on the
Yeah,
last, on a 2 point try where Exeter was trying to win the game. Um, New Oxford, I'll be honest with you, they've had some trouble in the postseason the last couple of years. Last year's the number one seed. They got
yeah,
ousted by Hershey.
yeah,
So I think that they've got New Oxford as the number one seed. I think has enormous pressure to make a deep run in the playoffs. Cocalico, who's playing, the 7-10 game, that's the
yeah,
two-time defending 5A champion in
yeah,
District 3. But Mechanicsburg has had a terrific season.
absolutely.
Shippensburg, a really good season. I've never seen a bracket in District 3 with the depth of talent, quite honestly, as the 5A bracket this year. I mean, top flight, and we haven't even, like I said, Bishop McDevitt playing a first round game,
Yeah,
which is actually the Penn Live game that I'll be doing this week. The Bishop McDevitt and Lower Dauphin, and I did a Lower Dauphin game earlier this year. That's a high quality team too. So 5A, just enormous depth of talent there.
yeah,
Um,
you're really gonna earn it, whoever wins this District 3 5A bracket.
and looking at the 4A bracket, it's it's landmine filled as well.
It is.
LS is the top seed who just beat Wyomissing last Saturday. There's a couple of first round games, East Pennsboro and then Elko and Octorara, who's a great story. This is a
Hmm.
team on the rise, getting in the postseason. Just fantastic there for Octorara. But boy, I tell you what, Susquehanna Township, that's a top flight program there with a lot of talent. Twin Valley, who was number one in the state for
Yeah.
for a good portion of the season. And maybe the best story in football in the state of Pennsylvania, West York, who
Yeah.
was didn't win a game last year, 8-2 this year,
What a
and
turnaround.
what a turnaround! I don't recall a turnaround as good as West York,
Hmm.
and the same thing with the 4A bracket in District 3. What depth, in that bracket. Let's go to 3A. And is it a surprise that Bermudian Springs is the number one seed, Dave?
Um, I don't know. I maybe, but not. I mean, you've seen these teams more than I have in District 3, but
Mm-hmm.
no, I'm not surprised. I mean, they've had a really good year this year. They earned that number one spot, and they're going to play the winner of Biglerville in Berks
The
Catholic.
Canners, yes, the
Yes.
Canners.
And then you look at the lower bracket, Trinity, who with everything going on before this season, with their coach leaving, players leaving, they've quietly put a nice 8-2 record and secured that second seed. And I think they'll probably end up playing Schuylkill Valley, which that could. If that game does happen, could be a pretty good game. But I like Bermudia's Springs path to get to the 3A District 3 finals.
I do too. I think the sleeper team here is Schuylkill Valley. Bruce
Yeah,
Harbaugh. I mean, he won a state championship at the Lancaster Catholic. A
yes.
few, it's been a few years, but he's a winner, and he's brought this Schuylkill Valley program back. Albeit, they'd have to go through Trinity, but I think Schuylkill Valley could be, a sleeper in there. Quickly, 2A, which um, just really has. Actually, I kind of went to 1A there. I kind of skipped over 2A, unfortunately. Let's see. I
Well,
thought
I
I.
could bring it up. So,
That's right. I
number
got it
one
here. Wait,
seed, there you go.
there we go. There's 2A.
Yep. So you
So
got,
Steel High and Upper Dauphin, Lancaster Catholic, who, following a couple of undefeated seasons now, finished at 6-4,
mhm.
playing a tough Camp Hill team. Steel High, another great campaign despite all of the losses. 8-2,
Yeah.
probably the favorite in 2A and District 3, and looking to make another deep run in the postseason in the PIAA. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean they dominated Class A for all those years, move up to 2A, and could they follow what, the path, the blueprint that Southern Columbia created by dominating Class A and moving up to Double A, and all they done is win state titles. So could Steel High kind of follow that? It starts this weekend, but I know they had a tough loss week 10, but they hold the number one seed, and I think they're gonna have a great shot to win this 2A bracket.
I absolutely do as well, and I think that that's a team that really could surprise a lot of folks in the PIAA. And not a lot of 1A teams, just two 1A teams in District 3, but the Lone Catholic, a really fine season at 8-2, looking to advance into the PIAA tournament against York Catholic.
Yeah, and they made our top 10, my top 10 small school rankings, and they're slowly climbing up. But again, Delone Catholic, they're back, and a solid 8-2 season so far, and look for them to win that bracket in Class A and move on to states.
Yeah, absolutely. Just trying to get a little just remember we've got live chat out there. I can't believe that a lot of our viewers there don't have opinions on who they like, in these District 3 items. But we're waiting for our buddy Joe Santaliquido to
Hmm.
stop by here, Dave. So we're just going to take it off share for a moment while Joe comes in. Joe's going to talk to us about District 1, the brackets there, and then maybe give us a little enlightenment, on the Philadelphia, Catholic League there. But overall, Dave, I mean, the
Hmm.
final week of the season this year didn't seem like we had a lot of surprises across the state.
Maybe Steel High losing, like I said, was a little surprising who they lost to. Um, yeah, I mean, Emmaus out here in District 11 shutting out Parkland 27-0 when it looked like, Parkland was getting better each week and we thought they might make a little run when it comes to district playoffs. But yeah, I mean, overall, there wasn't a lot of surprises. I mean, now. Listen, Northwestern Lehigh's coach told his players um, this past weekend, listen, you have to go 1-0. If you don't, you go home. It's that simple. And that's what these kids need to think about. All they got to do is be 1-0 this week and you move on. But, there's it's going to be a fun ride. It's the road to Cumberland Valley, not Hershey, Cumberland Valley, and um, it's going to be jam packed with some tremendous matchups. And are we going to have some of the same schools come back and compete for a state title? Maybe. Are we going to have some new teams come in? I think we could. So
Yeah, absolutely. And we want to thank our friends uh, that help us here with this program.
absolutely.
Get Recruited Consulting. Our buddy Andrew Cohen was on the program last week.
Yep.
Coach Tools as well. These are two great sponsors of ours that will be following us all the way to Cumberland Valley and our coverage there, right, Dave?
Yeah, and we'll have them on again probably next week. We'll definitely have them on and talk a little bit more about what they do and what they could provide to the coaches, players and everything. So, I mean, these are two guys that have great tools to help players in recruiting and for coaches to kind of make things a little easier for them. So we're excited to promote these two sponsors.
Yes, we are very much so. So, anyway, I will bring up we're kind of tight on time. So we are get, going to have to move forward without Joe and start here with District 1 and the 6A bracket. And I mean, what a great job by Springfield Delco with the big win the final week of the season to capture the top spot.
Yeah, and that's in 5A actually.
Oh,
Um,
excuse me. I'm sorry. Let's see what we got here. There we go. District 1 6A. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, so we got CB South again, number one seed, 10-0, fantastic season. They're gonna play Springford, a team that unfortunately with their quarterback getting hurt earlier in the year, I don't think they would have been a 16 seed going into this, but you look at this bracket and there's always, one of these lower seeds knocks off a higher seed. So could it be a Coatesville knocking off Downington West? Could, um, you know, Neshaminy knock off Owen J. Roberts? Pennsbury could they knock off CB West? Um, yeah, it's gonna be interesting because every year there's at least one, you know, if you want to call it upset, that happens. But looking at this bracket, I like CB South again to repeat as District 1 champions, but it's not going to be easy because I'll tell you what, looking at the next round for them, potential Plymouth Whitemarsh, who's a very good program, is, if they get by Sourden, that could be an interesting matchup.
I see. I agree. Pointing at that one there, I like Plymouth Whitemarsh. That's a battle tested team. They've played a really tough schedule, and yeah, I mean that 8-9 matchup there. But let's not forget North Penn either. In that top bracket there, that's another team. There really isn't a team in this 6A bracket in District 1 who really hasn't gone through, some serious competition to get to this point in the season, correct?
Yeah, I agree. And a lot of battle tested Quakertown, they're a 12 seed, they're playing Hafford High. They have a running back, Liam, who's I think he's over 2,000 yards rushing. I think he's second in the state, but he's like top 10 in the nation. Um, he's been a force and I think they're just gonna hand that ball, run with him and see how far they could go in this bracket.
And now let's go back to the 5A bracket where Springfield Delco, won that big matchup there with uh, gosh, it escaped me with Strathaven
Yeah.
to the final week of the season. Ultimately, those two are gonna, you would think, are ultimately going to meet one another once again to determine, who the win or go home team is, right?
Yeah, I mean, you look at that upper bracket, there's a very good chance on November 15th, 16th weekend. You may have that rematch with Strathaven and Springfield Delco. And listen, Delco, talking to Joe, they really dominated that game. And if I'm Strathaven, maybe you want to change it up a little, but their bread and butter's running and um I don't I think they're pretty much gonna try to, keep that going, but they might have to just tweak a little things to, you know, from the last time those two programs met.
Yeah. Look, I'm gonna Chris Kucharski is getting in a little bit early. I'm gonna bring him in, but we'll still finish talking about the 5A bracket here, okay, Dave?
Yeah, I mean we could come back to it. Why don't we jump into District 2 and get that going?
Okay.
We'll start with Class 1A.
Well, let's see what I've got here. I think I've got the oops, wait, here we go. Actually, I've got the 6A sub-regional up there
Okay, we can
that
talk about
we can
that
talk to.
first.
Hey Chris, how are you?
Hey guys, how you
Hey,
doing?
good. How you
Good. You
doing,
want to throw
Chris?
your video on?
I'm trying here. I'm seeing
It's all good.
That's all right. Hey, glad you could make it, man. We really appreciate it.
yeah, good to be here. Big fan of you guys. Both
Thank you.
outstanding high school football advocates. And obviously, I'm very excited about these next several weeks coming up here in the postseason. Regular season was fun. It goes by fast, that's for sure.
It
But
does.
nonetheless, nonetheless, yeah. I'm not sure what's going on with my camera here,
That's all
but
right. Well, I guess we could just do audio here till you get that figured out.
Yeah, we're
But
good.
yeah, but
So
we got the sub-regional bracket up there, Chris. What do you think?
Well, it's an interesting bracket considering all four teams come in at the same record. You don't see that very
yeah,
often. They're all 5-5. They've not everybody's played each other this year, which is unusual for the District 2 teams. Usually all the big schools play each other, but
hmm
you see the 1-4 there, Wilkes-Barre and Scranton. They didn't play in the regular season. Williamsport and Hazleton played earlier in the year. Williamsport won that game early, and then the Millionaires kind of went on a slide until they actually beat Wilkes-Barre last week, but Wolfpack still ended up the number 1 seed. So this is wide open. Anybody could win this.
yeah, I agree with that. And at times Wilkes-Barre's look good. Scranton, you have Williamsport, Hazleton. You're right. I mean, I think if they played this 4 different times, you might have 4 different champions.
Yeah, I mean, coming into the season, there was a lot of high hopes for Wilkes-Barre. I think that was the team that a lot of people thought would be the team to beat in 6A and also in the Wyoming Valley Conference. I thought they were one of the favorites in Division 1, and it's been a roller coaster season for that team. They have a lot of very good offensive weapons. They have some players that uh, are high end players, but it just seems like they couldn't put it together week to week. And so I don't know which Wolfpack team we're going to get. Hazleton has
Yeah,
been a little bit of a surprise this year. Dennis Bookman's done a good job coming back from just a rebuilding year last year. The Cougars had a
yeah,
couple successful seasons back to back, going back to 21 and 22. And then last year, they were very young, inexperienced, only won a couple games during the season. And they actually beat Wilkes-Barre this year, and it was an impressive win. They shut them out, which shocked a lot of us in this area because Wilkes-Barre's offense is pretty good.
yeah,
So
yeah,
again, it's wide open. Williamsport, righted the ship in that win. They were actually down in that game, week 10 to Wilkes-Barre late,
Wow.
20-14 or 20-13, and they scored 21 unanswered points in the fourth quarter. So yeah, so it should be a fun bracket.
Wow. Well, let's take a look at, let's see what we got next here. We got the 5A bracket here. Abington, Wyoming Valley West, Del Val, who I'm really interested to get your thoughts on them. They seem like one of those teams that takes on all comers. I'm not necessarily sure that might be in their best interest a lot of times. And so talk a little bit about 5A.
Well, Delaware Valley's the defending champion. This bracket's a little weird because 2-0-10 teams were competing to get in, and you can see Wyoming Valley West did get in. And Abington actually leapfrogged Delaware Valley a couple weeks ago to get to the number 1 seed. Really, the semifinals should not be in question. Abington and Delaware Valley are the 2 best teams by far. You go back to Delaware Valley, Bruce. They do this every year. They play
yeah,
a very tough non-conference schedule. They have started the last 4 seasons off 0-3, I believe, maybe even 0-4 in some of them. This year they were 0-4. They go down to Florida every other year. They played a team that was won several state championships. They also played Central York, which is a pretty good football team, and they played
Yep.
Jersey Shore. So
yeah,
they were competitive in except for the Florida game, they were competitive in the other 2 games. But this was a tough year for the Warriors from the standpoint of the team they graduated from last year.
yeah,
They had some players last year, and graduation hit them hard. So I knew Keith Olsummer was going to struggle a little bit, at least to get the ship going. Then week 4, they had to play Scranton Prep in their first league game. So they kind of gotten better as the season's gone on. Their offense is pretty good. And Mike Uzzolino is a pretty good running back that's gone over 1,000 yards and is their primary offensive player. Logan Olsummer manages the team at the quarterback position. But
hmm
Abington and them played earlier in this season, and it was a great game. I was there. Abington and Delaware Valley was like a heavyweight fight back. Heavyweight blows. back and forth. And Delaware Valley won that game on the road on a Saturday afternoon, touchdown by Logan Olsummer with 16 seconds remaining. So I think we're going to get through the semifinals to see these two teams play again. And, it's going to be a great game if they do play again. And Abington did get that 1 seed, so they'll get the home game in the finals if that's the way it falls down.
Yeah.
Wow. Good stuff. So let's talk a little bit about here 4A. And Dallas, again, they kind of made a late season run this year, but Valley View at 9-1, forgetting even about, District 2, you think Valley View's got enough to maybe make a run, A, for a district championship, but B, maybe something in the PIAA this year like Dallas did last year?
Well, Bruce, first of all, disclaimer, my oldest son plays for Valley View. So I am biased.
Well, thank you for letting us know.
And he's a pretty good player, let me tell you.
He's having a very good year.
He really is.
Valley View's obviously it's a well-known program throughout the state. They have had a lot of success. I think they've had a 10-win season every year since 2017. They won a couple district titles in that stretch. This team is pretty good. And they got slaughtered week 1 by Scranton Prep. And it was just one of those games that kind of went downhill quick, and Valley View never just got back into it. But since then, they have played pretty good football, and it's really the evolution of the offense for them. The defense came in. They thought they were going to be pretty good, led by all-state linebacker Gianni Marino. But the offense has surprised some people. It's more balanced than it's been in recent years. Zach Swilinski took over as the full-time quarterback this year, and he's had an outstanding season. My son, Nick Kaharski, is the tailback. Preston Reed is the fullback. And they really have a 3-headed monster on offense. And then if they do want to throw the ball, they have a 6'3" athletic wide receiver named Beon McLean, who is a great story. Beon joined the National Guard. So he was actually gone all summer, missed the Scranton Prep game. And then he came back the next game against Crestwood, who they'll play this week, and scored a touchdown. So he's had 6 touchdowns this season. So they're a pretty good team. So the problem with the Cougars the last 2 years, they couldn't get past that district final. They lost to Crestwood by 5 in 2022. They lost to Dallas by 3 in 2023. So it's been close, but I think whoever leaves District 2, and again, it's 4 pretty solid teams. I think that they have a possibility that they could go on a run. I know District 1 would be the opponent, the first round of the state playoffs, which Pope John Paul is obviously the class of that district. Yeah. So, but that's a game I think if you go back to Valley View's recent times in state playoffs, they were running into teams like Imhotep Charter, who it was a mismatch on paper. So so I think Valley View could make a run, but they got to get past that district championship game, which has been a thorn in their side the last 2 years.
Well, let's take a look at 3A now. And, everybody's been high on Scranton Prep all year. You see anybody else? I mean, I know that Wyoming area and Western Wayne had good seasons. Are they have the opportunity to knock Scranton Prep off?
You know what? There's 4 very good teams in this bracket. You mentioned Western Wayne, Wyoming area. Let's throw Mid Valley in there as well, because Mid Valley just knocked off Western Wayne, and probably the biggest upset in the Lackawanna Football Conference this season. It was 2 weeks ago. It was a little bit of a surprise, to be honest, because Western Wayne has been dominant all season long. Josh Vinton is one heck of a football player, on both sides of the football. He's over 3,000 career yards. And here's the thing, Bruce. Till somebody beats Prep, it's just one of those situations. Every year we think, well, there's a team that could challenge them. They're just a power here in District 2. They dominated the conference this year, although there were some close games. I got to be honest with you. Delaware Valley was a 1-score game. Abington Heights was a 1-score game. So even North Pocono played them tough last week. They ended up winning by 2 touchdowns. But the Prep's goal is they win that district again, which they've been doing for many years now at 3A. and get on a state playoff run. Can they do that? I think they have a chance. They're going to run into Northwestern Lehigh in that first round, who beat them in the states last year. But the Cavaliers have Lewis Parrish and Will McPartland, a nice 1-2 punch in that
Yeah.
backfield. Wyoming area is well coached. Obviously, Randy Spencer's won a state championship at Wyoming area. And I mentioned Western Wayne, and Mid-Valley is probably the sleeper here. But it still preps classification to win. And they got a break with Western Wayne losing. They still might have gotten the 1 seed just because of the power rankings and their strength of schedule. They actually left the district this year and went and played out of state. They played a team from Buffalo, New York. They played a team from
Canisius.
They played another team from Maryland. And then they went and played Jersey Shore, which was a great game a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
So that was something that Coach Terry Gallagher wanted to do. He wanted to upgrade his schedule a little bit to help him with that state tournament. But again, Wyoming area, only 1 loss. Western Wayne, only 1 loss. Mid-Valley is 7-3. And again, beating Western Wayne a couple weeks ago. So yeah, there's challengers, but it still preps the classification to win.
I agree with that.
All right. How about 2A? Dunmore is historically the one that's come out of here, but a great season for Riverside this year.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No,
I was going to say, they just took a loss against a pretty good single A team. Lackawanna Trail beat them. Yeah.
Well, we'll get the Lackawanna Trail in just a second when we do 1A. But Riverside ran off 9 straight to start the season. The schedule wasn't the most challenging for them, however. They won some close games against Susquehanna, who's in this classification as well. Carbondale area was a 3A team that gave them a game. Dunmore in week 1 they played. It was a very low scoring game. But we knew Dunmore was going to struggle early in the season. The Bucks, who got to the Eastern Final last year, more than they lost to Southern Columbia, hit very hard by graduation. And so Riverside, they are definitely the favorite here. I'll go last week's game since they brought it up real quick about Lackawanna Trail. I'll do the Vikings because they lost to Trail by a score to decide LSD Division 3, and then they lost in the district final, the Dunmore Bauer. So again, 1 score away from winning a league, 1 score away from winning a district, and they had their chance against Trail. And Chase Tadonio, who his passer rating is one of the highest in the country for high school quarterbacks. He is a very good football player. He's not the all-time leader at Riverside, but he's up there for passing yards. He's a 4-year starter. Has not turned the ball over once this year. 20 touchdowns, no interceptions, no fumbles. First drive of the game, rolls his ankle. And I'll give the kid credit. He stayed in the game against Trail, but he just wasn't himself, wasn't able to run the football. And then their Division I prospect, Richie Kostoff, who set the record for the tight end receptions and receiving yards, he gets nicked up in the game too. So it wasn't the best situation. They had to go up the Tunnel Hill at Lackawanna Trail, which was a tough place to play on. Trail got the best of them, handled them pretty much, but now they don't have to worry about Trail anymore. Now they got to worry about winning the district. Susquehanna has been the biggest surprise this year in this classification. Susquehanna obviously is a program that hasn't had a lot of success on the state level, winning district there. But it's what's interesting about the Sabres this year in this season, regular season, they beat Dunmore, Lakeland, and Old Forge. And if you know anything about Northeast Pennsylvania football, those are 3 traditionally small school powers. But again, all 3 of those programs are down a little bit this year, but still that's a big accomplishment for the Sabres. Well, their reward is to get Dunmore in the first round again. The good news is they beat them earlier this season. It was a really good game. Susquehanna came back. I was there for that game. Came back and defeated them 25-21. Susquehanna gets a Saturday afternoon game up in Susquehanna County. And again, if you don't know your geography, that's a good hour bus ride for Dunmore to head up there. And Susquehanna plays good on those Saturdays. They have a big home field advantage, but don't count the Bucks out just yet. They went on a nice winning streak here before the end of the season, had a chance to win the division. But they ran into Western Wayne, who is definitely a superior team. So Susquehanna will be interesting. Dunmore's the defending champ, so until they get knocked off, we'll give them a chance. And Lakeland is just down this year. So Riverside beat them handily earlier in the year. So it's Riverside the favorite, but don't count out Susquehanna and Dunmore.
Okay.
Well, let's
Good
the
stuff.
aforementioned single A bracket with Lackawanna Trail. Nativity's played well this year. But Lackawanna probably the prohibitive favorite, Chris.
Yeah, I think so. And Trail's got the
Yeah.
pedigree. They have gone on state runs. They made the state championship game a couple years back, if you remember. Steve Jervis does an outstanding job with this program. They always
Mhm.
have athletes. They run the wing tee. Probably in Northeast Pennsylvania, probably run the wing tee better than anybody except maybe for Southern Columbia.
Wow,
It's
that's
just
saying something.
yeah, well, they're always good. They have the kids too. I always say this to people when they ask about coaching and stuff. I said, well, you still got to have the kids, no matter how good a coach you are. And Trail seems to produce very good football players up there in Lackawanna, Wyoming County. I know a little bit about Nativity and Marion Catholic and Tri Valley. I know that Marion Catholic just knocked off Nativity
Yeah.
there in week 10 to make the playoffs. The one team missing out of here, guys, is Old Forge. They didn't qualify
Yeah.
this year. They're going to the Eastern Conference and they're going to play
Mhm.
Holy Cross, who they played earlier this season. But Mike Schuback, who's had a lot of success at Old Forge, I think the last time they didn't make a significant playoff game was the third year coaching. He's been there 2 decades. So it's a down year for
Wow.
the Blue Devils, but it's definitely Lackawanna Trail. I think sub-regional to lose, but I wouldn't count out any of the 3 District 11 teams. They're all solid football teams. They're going to have to prepare well because when we play against Lackawanna Trail, your defense has to be disciplined. You guys have watched Southern Columbia play a million times. They look like a machine out there. If you don't make mistakes when you run that wing tee, it's hard to defend, especially if you don't see it during the year. I don't know, again, schedule wise, the opponents they play, they've seen the wing tee. But
Probably
that's what,
not.
yeah. And Trail's got 2 really good backs, Isaac Ryan, Demetrius Douglas on those wings.
Yeah.
And they're good. They're both very good football players, all state players from last year.
Yep.
So again, Trail is got a mission to get back to that state championship game, and I wouldn't count the Lions out.
Yeah,
Wow, I
I
tell you
think they
what.
could. No,
Yeah,
I was gonna say I think they could make a deep run looking at the state brackets. I think they could get all the way to the East final and either play, possible Westinghouse or someone out of District 6.
yeah. I mean, again, I agree there too, guys. You know how that works. Successful
Yeah.
programs breed culture. They breed winning, and Trail has been doing that for a while. One quick thing I will mention about the classifications, it's an interesting aspect of this for maybe people who aren't familiar with District 2. It consists of 2 conferences, the Wyoming Valley Conference and the Lackawanna
And
Football
Lackawanna.
Conference.
Yep.
Lackawanna Football Conference dominated play this year against the Wyoming Valley Conference. It was I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but they basically almost won every matchup between the 2
Wow.
conferences. You go to the brackets with the exception of 1A and 2A, you go 3A, 4A, 5A, 6A, and pull Williamsport out because they're District 4. Every single matchup is Wyoming Valley Conference versus Lackawanna Football Conference, which you don't see that too often in
Wow.
our, at least in our area. So will that hold the same way that we saw in the regular season? Will these
Mhm.
Lackawanna League teams dominate the Wyoming Valley Conference teams? It might. I mean, again, Wyoming area is probably the best team in district in the Wyoming Valley Conference. Dallas, you mentioned them before, Bruce. Dallas has been red hot though, 7-game winning streak.
Yeah.
Tough schedule to start the season. Had to replace 5 offensive linemen, but I never
Yeah.
doubt Rich Manello. He is one
No.
of the best coaches in the state. He took that team to the state championship game last year, and I'm going to be honest with you, that was a great coaching job by him and his staff, because on paper that team didn't look like a championship team, but they played like one. So don't count out Dallas in that 4A. Could be them in Valley View again if they both can get past their semifinal games, and we've had some great games between those 2 teams over the last 6 years.
Yeah, I got to meet
Absolutely.
Coach Manello last year. I was up there for when they beat Bishop McDevitt, and that was a really special game. And one that, quite honestly, I'll never forget. I mean, it really educated me on, Rich and that coaching staff and what they did and what they continue to do, with the players that they've got.
it's funny. People always ask me every year. They'll see me in the grocery store, or they know that I'm involved with District 2 football, and I think this applies to the state too, because I've covered the Whippeal in the past. I lived out in Pittsburgh for a while and did games out there, broadcasting and writing and stuff. And I think it's the same thing around the state. They asked me, well, who's going to be good this year? And I said, well, who's good every year? And obviously that's not straight across the board, but District 2, it has applied probably for the last step. You're going to get a team here that jumps in there that surprises some people. You're going to get maybe a team that falls off a little bit. But in the end, it seems it's the same programs over and over. And I go back to culture and coaching and community, and those things in Northeast Pennsylvania are very evident with the teams that have success. Dallas is one of those teams. Wyoming area is one of those teams. Delaware Valley is one of those teams. Valley View is one of those teams. Dunmore usually one of those teams too. This year again down a little bit because of the hard hit from graduation, but that's how it seems to roll. And again, I think we've seen that a lot here in the state in general, but definitely in District 2.
Absolutely.
All right, Chris, I tell you what, fantastic stuff.
Yeah, great
I
stuff.
mean, my gosh, we're got to get you on more often, my friend.
No problem. I love talking about it. Sorry. Well, actually, it's probably a good thing for your viewers that they couldn't see me anyway. So I'm not
it's all good.
I don't know. I haven't used Zoom on this laptop, so for some reason the camera's not working.
Sometimes it works that way. And we're bringing in Matt Belts here to talk District 4. So
real
Chris,
quick,
I'll tell you what.
real quick, Bruce. Just a quick plug, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
We do our own podcast too. It comes out on Thursdays. It's called the NEPA Helmet Heads.
Nice.
And we talk District 2 football. But real quick, Dave will appreciate this too. Quick, it's gonna take 2 seconds, and you can get to Matt. But NEPA Helmet Heads. Helmet Heads. That term came from our good friend, our late friend Eddie Walker.
Yeah.
And if you guys know Eddie was a diehard Berwick guy, but more important, diehard high school football guy. Eddie knew more about high school football than anybody in District 2. And he passed away suddenly several years ago. He was a good friend of mine. He was a good contributor. He worked for my network. He was deeply involved in the TV broadcasts and radio broadcasts in this area. And he called diehard high school football fans Helmet Heads. So we decided to do the podcast this year. We named it in tribute to him, the NEPA Helmet Heads podcast. We know Eddie's listening every time and definitely arguing with us as well. So just wanted to throw that out there. People can check it out on our website, nepafootball.com.
Well, we'll definitely have to check it out. Chris, thank you so much, man. Appreciate your time.
Enjoy the playoffs.
All right. Thank you so
Chris.
much. We'll
I'll be in touch. Hey, Matt.
Hey, how you guys doing?
How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Doing well. How about you guys?
Good,
well,
good.
I'll tell you what, we have had some pretty lively discussions so far. I mean, we've gotten through, we still have to go back to District 1, but I think
we'll get
ready.
that. Joe's going to jump on later. So
yeah. Well, let's go ahead and get things going here with the brackets again. And should have District 4 coming up. Wow, I've been doing good with these, Dave. I mean, had these right in line here. And
so this is 4A.
Right. Start with 4A here in District 4. Take it away, Matt. I'm telling you what. I mean, there's a lot of anticipation, I think, of a Shamokin Jersey Shore rematch.
Yeah, that's probably, I think, the way that that's kind of trending, just kind of based on how things have gone this season and so forth. They played a close game the first time, Shamokin and Jersey Shore, and I would expect another close game again. I mean, I don't know what the schedules were for all the other 400 plus high school teams in the state, but I can't imagine there are many schools out there that played a tougher schedule than Jersey Shore.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at that schedule,
and they were all over the place too.
Oh yeah. And we'll talk about Troy later in AA, but I think that's a product of just that they can't get any games in the district. they have to go far and wide. And so if they are, they might as well, play good teams like, Dallas,
Hmm.
defending state runner-up from 4A last year.
Yeah.
Benton Prep. I know they went down to Philly to play a team.
Penwood. Yep. Yep.
And Woods. So yes, I mean I think that's more of a product of that though, because aside from their assigned games in their division in the PHAC, they just nobody wants to play them in the non-conference, including some of their local rivals from Lycoming County that they've played quite frequently over the years. So yeah, just but they've never really ducked anyone. I mean, a couple of years ago when Canton was really good, making the state semifinals in single A, they played each other. It was a one-time deal in the regular season. But yeah, I would again not to overlook Athens or Selinsgrove, which they themselves made the semifinals in 4A last year. But obviously they lost a lot from last year. Selinsgrove did, and they're always around. I think Jersey Shore and Selinsgrove have played in now. This will be I don't know how many straight years, but quite a few.
Hmm.
Probably 10, 11 years straight years they've played in the playoffs. So twice a year, and they're always entertaining. But I think Jersey Shore and Shamokin have proven that they're heads up above the rest in 4A this year, and so it should be a good one. I mean, I unfortunately haven't seen any of these four teams play this year. Would have loved to have seen Shamokin. Maybe I still will in the playoffs here. But you know how Jersey Shore plays the up tempo
Yeah.
run. 70. I had a game a couple
Yeah.
years ago when they ran 97 plays. I think it was.
Wow.
So and from what I heard, Shamokin kind of found a way to kind of slow them down a little bit. Well, when you force them into 3 and outs, that kind of limits the number of plays they can run. So I think they probably did that a few times, but they were well prepared, and I assume they'll be well prepared again too. Should both them and Shore advance to the final. But yeah, boy, that'll be a good one.
And
Wow.
Schmoken just got a huge win, got the coal bucket, huh?
Yeah, I tell you what,
Beat Mount Carmel.
you talk about streaks ending. I've covered all year long Columbia Montour Votech, and they just had their first winning season since
Yeah.
2007 this year. They have
Wow.
one more, but they've clinched the winning season, so good for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, talk about a longer streak. 1995 since the coal
Yeah.
bucket last
Wow.
came back to Shamokin. 27 straight wins. So obviously there was I think a couple of years they didn't play. I know that they didn't play the COVID year. But
Hmm.
yeah, boy, that's I'm sure I've heard it was a great atmosphere. There were as many people outside the gates of the Silver Bowl last Friday as
Yeah.
were inside. And so that'll be that was a great atmosphere, and yeah, just good for them. I mean, that was kind of like the last thing that they had to accomplish this year that they obviously hadn't done in a while. So yeah, that was
Incredible win.
yeah.
All right, let's take a look at a 3A.
Yeah.
Danville, arguably, I mean, maybe the best 3A team in the state, Matt.
Yeah, and I tell you what, obviously they'll have to get past Montoursville or Mifflinburg, and then potentially Lewisburg or Mount Carmel in the final. They beat Mount Carmel this year. I don't think they played Lewisburg. I don't know, but I
I
have,
could
but I
check.
have. Yeah, I don't think they played this year because they may have been in
No,
different.
they didn't.
They did not. Yeah, so so yeah, but. I, I tell you what, they have to be ecstatic, and we're looking ahead a little bit, and obviously we can do that, but they won't. But they must be ecstatic that Why I'm Missing is no longer in 3A
Yes.
because they've just I mean they've had some great teams the last 4 years now, 2020 through 2023, four straight district titles, three quarterfinal berths, and a semifinal berth. And
Yeah.
3 out of the 4 years they've lost to Why I'm Missing, including by just an inch a couple of years ago.
Yeah, right. On a missed field goal,
On
right?
the field goal, yeah, missed field goal
Yeah.
at the end of the game, last play of the game, and boy, I was at that game. What a great game that was, and it looked good in the press box. Of course, you can't tell that's why you don't call good or not good in the press box. Obviously, that's why they have an official standing under the upright.
Yeah.
But that field goal looked good. And it must have been widest by the slimmest of margins. But that's how close they came 2 years ago, and then of course they had to play them down there in Reading last year, and didn't come as close. But yeah, they can get through this bracket, which I would anticipate they will. Again, I don't know how. Obviously, they got Northwestern Lehigh in there, who I think was the runner up right last year in 3A.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. And District 4 is actually the lower part of the bracket. So
Mhm.
they would get the District 3
Oh, right.
winner.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
yeah.
I'm
So,
already thinking beyond that. No disrespect to the District
yeah,
3 teams. I
Mhm.
see Trinity in there too. So that's
yeah, yeah,
they're usually tough. And if Bermudian Springs there is the top seed, I assume they're good as well. So, but yeah, if they were to get past the District 3 wall, now that Wyomissing's not there, if they were to finally get beyond that one, and then they were to go into the semis, they get either Northwestern Lehigh or
Scranton Prep.
yeah, Scranton Prep is in there too, and
Yeah.
There's
you
some
got
real heavyweights. I mean,
There's
there are
some,
some just
yeah,
but they'll only have
heavyweights.
to face one of them. So
yeah,
but yeah, I think just based solely on the fact that Wyomissing is not there anymore to stand in their way, and just the fact that they have a really good team again this year too. Obviously, I mean they have a quarterback who doesn't throw picks. He's got a tremendous, touchdown to interception
yeah.
ratio, a tremendous quarterback rating. Doesn't make mistakes, get killed with turnovers there. They got some receivers who are athletic. Their running back Shuptak, I think, has set a new record for touchdowns, either in a career or in a season. They got a really solid defense too. They've been getting some guys back from injury over the latter half of the season. So yeah, they got to feel pretty good about themselves going in there as long as they take care of business here in the District 4 playoffs. Now, I don't want to shortchange Lewisburg or Mount Carmel either, because I mean, boy, if you're Mount Carmel, you've had Southern standing in your way all these years,
Yeah.
and now you're in AAA, so you got to great Southern. Well, I wonder if they wish they were back in AA this year, because Southern's not quite as good this year, and they beat Southern again during the regular season. But
Yeah.
I know they don't think like that. I mean, and
No.
they'll never step down from a challenge. They're not that type of program. I mean, they're the winningest program in the state, all time wins. So yeah, I would if they were to get there, they'll give Danville a good game. Danville beat them this year, but I certainly wouldn't ever put anything past Mount Carmel and Lewisburg. They played Danville, I think, in the semifinals last year of the district,
Yeah.
and because
Yeah.
I covered that game, and yeah, they're better this year, I think. I mean, the record
Yeah.
certainly indicates so.
Their
And
only
they
loss was to who was that?
Shamokin.
Shamokin, right?
Close
Yeah,
one. Yeah.
yeah. They had a close one against Mifflinburg in the rivalry game the last week, I think. But yeah, they got a really strong running back. So if they can hold on to the ball, keep the ball away from Danville's potent offense there, that they can make that one a close one. So yeah, definitely don't want to look past either of those teams if you're Danville, and I don't think they will. But yeah, if you can get out of the districts, I think Danville's got to feel pretty good about themselves to maybe hopefully get that next step this year, which they
Yeah.
had
All right.
Wyomissing
Well,
or they lost to Newman Goretti one year as well.
all right. 2A.
So is this the
I
year?
mean, Troy obviously,
Yeah.
has had an incredible year. They're gonna if they face Southern Columbia, it's actually in a quarterfinal
Yeah.
Semifinal. Yeah.
or
Yeah.
semifinal. Excuse me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what's your thoughts? I mean, do you think that the championship goes through, Troy and possibly Southern Columbia matchup?
Yeah, I would say, and no disrespect to the teams at the bottom of that bracket either, but I would say, yeah, the champion is going to come from the top half there, I would think. So I mean, well, let's talk about the bottom half for a sec there. So
Okay.
I saw Tawanda play this year. They're very strong. They have a dual threat quarterback who's very
Hmm.
good. And obviously, they've had a really good season for first time they've been 8-2 in a while. So they're very, I'm sure, feeling pretty good about themselves. But they were blown out by Troy this year. One of not the only team. Troy blew out pretty much everyone on their schedule. So you would have to think that if they faced each other a second time, it would be much of the same. And Loyalsock is always a very good program as well. They're always in the mix, for district titles, and then they have a very good coach in Justin Van Fleet, and they always have athletes. They lost to Southern this year, so they've had a good year, but I just Anyway, and Warrior Run's had a good year too. They started 4-0, and 6-4. They're not traditionally a team you talk about come playoffs, but they've had a pretty good year. So I wouldn't put it past them to go up to Loyalsock and knock them off, and then see what happens against Towanda or Bloomsburg. So. But yeah, like you said, I think the fireworks are going to be in the upper half of that bracket there.
Yeah.
So I was fortunate to see that game last year, Southern at Troy in the district final. Played in a monsoon up at Troy,
muddy
on
field.
the slop. And I tell you, I think if I would have loved to have seen that game played in better conditions, like on turf or something like that, or not in the slop on the field there, because I actually think Troy would have had a better chance that way. Troy, up until like the last couple of years, they have always just been like they were always just like a ground and pound team, and that worked for them, up there. But whenever they came down here to play, Mount Carmel or Southern in the district playoffs, they would just Mount Carmel and Southern were far bigger on the lines, and so they would just get dominated, up front, as Southern and Mount Carmel have done to a lot of teams over the years. Troy, though, more recently, they have a lot more athletes, both at the quarterback position and the running back position, and out wide. And I think last year they had the athletes to match up with Southern. However, the muddy field neutralized it for everybody, and it turned into another ground and pound type of game, which Southern just outlasted them at the end. And Southern had the 3-horse backfield last year, all seniors, so those guys are gone now. And they were just able to outlast them. And of course, I mean, Southern's defense is just phenomenal. Southern's defense has been phenomenal throughout this 7-year run of 7 straight state championships. It's really their defense that's probably been the biggest reason they've won 7 straight. I mean, their offense has been no slouch either. I mean, hello, Julian Fleming, but
the Garcia family.
Yeah, the Garcia family. So, and the youngest Garcia is now up there with the Tigers. So
okay.
It was really interesting. I mean, it was a scoreless game at halftime last year, 14-0, two touchdowns there in the second half. But, Troy, they had to get away from what they were good at, which was you get their athletes in space. They had the athletes to match up with Southern's athletes to potentially beat them one-on-one, if you got them into the open field there. But the rain and the sloppy field just took that all away, and it just turned into a ground and pound slop fest. And it was, who came out on top at the end. But Southern with the big lines and everything. So,
the burning question is who do you think wins in a Troy Southern Columbia matchup this year?
Well, I don't know. I guess I have to place a qualifier with the weather again.
no qualifier. Good weather. I mean,
I don't know, and who knows what condition that field is in up there. I mean, it's I don't know. I don't know if they played in the slot.
That's all right. Hey, but I mean, but. Let's just say it's going to be a fast track. I mean, we're in the middle of a drought. So even if we got 4 inches of rain, it's not going to soften these fields. So who do you like?
I don't know about that one. That one gets soft pretty easily in my experience, but I'm not the most experienced one either. But I tell you, you can never ever count Southern Columbia out. No. If I were any of the other 7 teams in this bracket, I'd be nervous. Because Southern is Southern, but this year they have a lot of new players. They most of the guys playing were not key starters on the last couple of years championship teams. So if you have to ask me, I would say it's Troy's year. But
I think that there's a lot of pressure on Troy this year because of just what you said. That they know that this is their shot.
Yeah.
And can they handle the pressure of actually being the favorite. That's what I wanted.
And the
Yeah.
streak. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
the
the
streak. Yeah,
bottom line.
what do
Will
they
the
have now?
streak end?
30 something straight postseason games, I think, going back 7 years. It's remarkable. So
I mean, when's the last time Southern's been the fourth seed in this
oh
bracket?
boy,
I
yeah.
mean, it's
Not as long
it,
as I've been covering it. I've been doing this for
yeah,
15 years. So no, not
yeah. So it's going to be big news statewide if Southern doesn't even come out of the district this
mhm.
year, which could happen. But we got the games this week, and then
Mhm.
that potential matchup.
That will be a good one. I hope I might be able to cover that one again if things fall into place. That will be very interesting to see. I have not seen Southern this year,
Yeah,
but from what I've heard and read and talked to others, it's just been they've made kind of youthful mistakes, like turnovers and inopportune spots, just so I mean they're young. I mean, the last time they had a young team would have been like 2016 when the Julian Fleming and the first Garcia, that bunch were all freshmen, and they were
yeah,
coming off a state title,
Well,
and
let's get a
they had lost a bunch of guys, and then oh geez, okay, well Southern's going to take a step back. Oh yeah, here's Julian Fleming, here's Gage Garcia, here's Cal Halliday. They were all freshmen, and they were the state runner up that year, and then they started on their current seven-year streak of titles this after that
yeah.
that sophomore years. So yeah,
yeah.
it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, boy, you can never count Southern out just because I mean that coaching staff is going to coach them up. And they're going to be prepared. They're going to be put in the spots they need to be put in. Yeah, it's a matter of will they make those plays at in an atmosphere like Troy.
Okay. Well, we're kind of tight on time, Matt.
Yep.
Let's get a brief look at 1A.
Yeah, that's also an interesting one, and it's I don't want to pick all chalk here, but yeah, I mean Muncie's had the best year of anyone in there, but I tell you what, who I'd pick as the dark horse is Montgomery. I think Montgomery is playing as good as any team in the district really right now.
Yeah.
Outside of like Troy and Danville and Shamokin who are undefeated, the Montgomery has won. I don't know how many of their last. I think they've only lost one game in like their last 7 or 8 or so. But
Yeah.
they are playing tremendous. I think it's their the most wins they've had in a season 20, 25 years or so, something like that. If I recall a tweet that Chris Massey from the Sun Gazette wrote, but yeah, they're playing good, and
But you
they've had a
think
young team last
but
couple
you
of
think
years.
Muncie's the team though?
I would say Muncie's the team. I mean,
Yeah.
Muncie did. I think that was the only game they lost down the stretch. Muncie, they
41-7. Yeah.
yeah, they have a little rivalry trophy there, the old shoe game. So yeah, I would say Muncie's probably your favorite again, but yeah, Montgomery definitely your dark horse there. I think.
Matt, I tell you
Absolutely.
what, man, we're
Great
gonna have you
stuff.
on as the tournament progresses here, just to see how everything pans out. I wrote everything down, so we're gonna hold you to it.
All right, we'll see. And yeah, hopefully they don't come to me and say, "Oh, see who you picked against us," all this and that. I understand. I'm not a
I
full
know.
time guy. I just do this for fun. I have a full time
Yeah.
job and everything. But yeah,
Yeah.
thankfully they never asked me to do any picks, weekly picks for the paper because they told me stories. Oh yeah, they use it as motivation and whatnot. And if I
Good.
can, yeah, I suppose that's
I've
good.
got plenty of stories about that, and
I'm sure.
but we'll save
Yeah.
that for another show. Hey, listen, Matt, thanks a lot,
Thank you,
man.
Matt.
And we appreciate it. We'll have you on again.
All right, sounds great, guys. Thanks a lot. Appreciate
Take
it.
Thank
care
you.
now. All
Have a good
right.
night, man.
Yeah,
Yep,
bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Good
All
stuff.
right.
District 2, District 4.
Do you want to do District 11 here real quick?
Yeah.
Or do you
And
want
then
to get Joe on?
if Joe's available, see. If not, we could quick break down District 11.
Well, let's go ahead and get started with District 11 while I get Joe
Okay. And
on
then he
here.
could get on at some point.
All right. Let me shoot him a text here.
And what do you want to talk about first? 6A, 1A?
Well,
Oh,
I've
that
got it. I do have it here as soon as I can get Joe his text here.
yeah.
And So I believe we're going to start with 6A. There we go.
There we
I've been
go.
pretty good with that. I haven't missed the mark yet.
Yeah, you've been pretty good.
But I
So
mean, this
looking
is
at
quite a
this
bracket,
bracket,
man.
Easton's been the story.
All right, here
Um,
comes Joe. Just when we
yep.
get so we'll go back to our district ones.
Okay, we'll go District 1 and then we'll finish up with District 11.
Yep.
Hey, Joe.
Joe.
Maybe.
Maybe. Well, we see him. We see a picture. He just needs to unmute, and then we've got our buddy Joe Sandalaquido. We've had him on
Maybe.
before, and he just need we
Maybe.
just needs to unmute if he can hear us. Joe, you there?
Okay.
Yes, he is.
I can
There
hear
we
you.
go.
On video. There we go.
There we go. There's Joe.
Yeah, here I am.
There's that
Great.
ugly mug that I know.
But we've got the District 1 6A bracket there.
Yeah.
Central Buck South, the defending champion, the number 1 seed. You think there's anybody that's going to knock them off?
No, I don't. No. They are. They come back with quite a bit. They made a late run last year that surprised a few people. They just picked up where they left off. The shame of it is they're going to walk into a steam. They're going to run into a train, whether it be LaSalle, whether it be St. Joe's Prep. And I was there. I think Dave, I think you were there too last year
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
when they rolled over when St. Joe's Prep rolled over CB South. But yeah, I don't see anybody stopping them. And at least
And they had the backup quarterback, if I remember correctly. Didn't Prep have the
So
backup quarterback in that game?
you don't think that the Downingtown West, the number 2 seed, would
no.
have
I
a
think
shot?
Samaj played. Samaj played in that game.
Okay.
Samaj played.
So what about Downington West? You think they could compete and challenge CB South this year?
From what I know, I think they can. From what I know, I've read about both teams. I know a little bit about both teams, but I haven't seen both teams. But from what I know, and Coach Klein's done a really nice job in his first year there. And from what I know of Coach Klein, he's going to be in every game. But right now, the way CB South looks, and they play in a far tougher conference than anybody, any of these public league schools in southeastern PA. I don't see anyone getting in their way.
And historically, 6A has been one where the heavy favorite hasn't really made it to the PIAA tournament. I mean, I hate to keep pressing it, but is there anybody that you see that might be that team that's going to come from the back of the pack?
Were you talking about
6A.
6A PIAA 6A District 1?
Well, I mean, right. What 6A team in the District 1 tournament, lower seed, has who could be the dark horse team in District 1 6A? Because historically there's been a dark horse team make it to the final.
I'll tell you what, even though, and I'm going to be there Friday night, Haverford has a pretty special player. This kid, Liam Taylor, is 7th or 8th in the country in rushing. Kid's had over 2,200 yards rushing. And here's the deal. I mean, these aren't exactly schlubs they're rolling over. I mean, the Central League is sprinkled with some really, really good competitive teams. And they've had, they've played well. And here's the deal too. He's done. Liam Taylor, he's junior. He's done very, very well, and he's done very, very well against defenses that are designed to stop him. I mean, they know what they're going to be seeing, opposing teams, and still yet he's running over these guys. We're going to see what happens this Friday night. I'm going to be at Haverford. I think to my recollection, I don't think Haverford's ever won a home district playoff game. So this is going to be a pretty nice test. It's against Quakertown. Obviously, Quakertown being one of those big suburban one
Yeah.
team. But this is a little bit of a different Haverford High School team. They have a share of what has turned into a very, very competitive Central League with Strathaven and with Springfield, all finishing, I believe, not they finished all at 9-1. And I just right now I think Haverford's going to be they're going to be a tough team to stop.
Well, you segued into 5A there with Springfield
That's
winning, that on
yeah.
the final week of the season there. I mean, do you think anybody from the southern part of this bracket has an opportunity to win the 5A with Strathaven now and Springfield being in the top
Yeah,
half?
this is the most competitive bracket there is. I mean, CB South is a clear favorite to repeat as District 1 6A champions. I don't think, I mean, Strathaven has a very, very strong possibility of repeating, but it is, I mean, they got rolled over. Springfield, and now Springfield can sustain that kind of physicality against Strathaven. Throughout these next 2 or 3 weeks, this is what the next 3 weeks, they're going to be a tough out.
Yeah.
They have the Barber kid who's a junior. He's done a decent job. We'll see how Chris Dolan does. He is a very, very good standout athlete for Springfield. And here's the other thing too: is Springfield's made up of a bunch of Division I athletes. Now, the Division I lacrosse players, and they're going to be one of the state favorites to win a state championship in lacrosse. I wouldn't define these guys, but they're outstanding athletes, and they can hit you in a variety of different ways. That's why I thought they had a shot at Strathaven. That's why I was there to cover the game. I thought it was going to be a competitive game. I didn't think it was be as much of a rout as it turned into. But they're going to be a tough team to beat. Strathaven drops to number 4, which is those two teams have a chance to meet in the quarterfinals or semifinals, and there's that possibility. And the team that really everybody has to watch out for, in my opinion, is number 7 seed Chester.
I agree.
Yeah, they opened up with Upper Moreland, and then poor Ruston, who's the number 2 seed, to have to face Chester.
They're the number 1 team in 5A, I think, by Penn Live, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or they're ranked up
I've never seen a number 1 team in the state be middle of the road ranking in their own district tournament.
Because the Delville League is not very good. The Delville's just I hate to be that way, but it's not a very good league. And right now, Chester and what Coach Shaw has done, he's built the power. And the Harris twins are special players. I did this earlier in the year.
But Ruston can frustrate the heck out of you because they're going to run it some more. And then when you get the ball, people think, oh, we got to score right away. Well, I mean, they'll frustrate you.
They could try. They could try against Chester. I don't know if I don't know if they're going to succeed, because here's a key ingredient. I had the pleasure of doing the Chester and Imhotep game, and obviously we know how good Imhotep is, and Chester had them beat. And I'll tell you what, Jabri Wallace-Coleman, special players going to Penn State. Zaire Mathis, special players going to Ohio State. But the best player on that field may have been Deron Harris. I think Deron had a couple picks in that game. He had a couple picks. I believe he had a fumble recovery. He had a long touchdown, I believe, a punt return for TD. He is a really, really special player. I mean, a major D1 type player. And if the area doesn't know about him, they're going to find out fast. They needed a little bit more of a passing attack, I think, now from the Chester, who Chester is now, as opposed to the Chester I saw earlier this season. I think the passing attack makes them a more well-rounded team. And the problem was, I mean, they did a nice job with Jabri Wallace-Coleman. no disrespect meant to Coach St. Clair and Ruston. They are a very good team. They are very, very well coached. They don't have a Jabri Wiles call.
Sure.
And, what happened in the Imhotep game was Jabri kept on running at him and running at him and running at him.
Mm-hmm.
And finally that dam broke. And Jabri in the end took that game over. And I remember talking to Coach Shaw right after the game, and I was like shaking my head, wow. I mean, I know it's a loss. I know you guys are down. I know your kids are down. And he was right. He says, hey, my kids played. We came in here. We're not looking for moral victories. We came in here to win this game. And they gave Imhotep a hell of a scare. I think with the schedule they played, I think they've had the chance to fine-tune things. I'm not going to call them like scrimmages, but I think some of these games were of the scrimmage variety because they got a chance to play around and test some things on, to be blunt with you guys again, inferior teams. So this is going to be a really, really fun bracket. You have Springfield opening up against Academy Park. In past years, that game was a freaking down and out, knockdown brawl. AP's down. You have here at the other end of the bracket, I believe the Ruston's the number 2 seed. I don't see them coming out. I see Chester in the quarters with or semifinals rather with you know what, I want to go Upper Dublin. I'm going to go Chester and Upper Dublin. My finals there, and up here, I'm going to go to chalk. I'm going to go Springfield.
And nobody's given Phoenixville any love at all.
I know.
Well, it's well.
Anyway,
hey, Phoenixville might not.
Well, you said it's the toughest bracket in
right.
District
District
1.
One historically,
Phoenixville might not even beat Upper Prairie.
Well, I mean, I could say that about any other matchup. I'm just saying that District 1, 6A and 5A tournaments historically has that dark horse team, and we call it a dark horse only because they're not the 1 or 2 seed, but a dark horse team who makes it all, who wins it or makes it to the finals.
You have 7 teams in this bracket. 7 teams in this bracket. Strathaven, Springfield. Let's go. Springfield, Strathaven, Ruston,
Chester.
Pretty capable. Chester. Garnet Valley. Don't forget Garnet Valley. They've had a little bit of a down, especially on the defensive side. Upper Dublin. They always do a great job over there. It's going to be fun because there's no real clear-cut favorite, even though Springfield's the number 1 seed. And like I said, they deserve that. But it's going to be a bit of an interesting ride here. It's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be let's see how this plays out.
Well, let's take a look at quickly 4A so that we can get Dave to District 11. And it's only 4 teams. Boy, I mean, 3 of the 4 are top flight there, Joe.
Shanahan, John Paul II. Yeah.
I saw Shanahan beat Downingtown West.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's another route. That's another
John Paul's only loss is to Ruston.
Yeah.
I mean, so what do you think?
Well, obviously,
and then Monaco.
And Springfield Monaco is there, but I see a John Paul Shanahan, and I see John Paul coming out of this. And then I believe they have the luxury of playing the District 12 4A, which I think would probably be right now, from what I know, probably Bonner Prendy.
Bonner, yeah, I gotta believe.
And they're going to be they're tough out too. If it's whether it's John Paul II or Shanahan against Bonner Prendy, that is going to be one hell of a game.
I'll tell you what, man. We're just getting started. I mean, we'll get you on in the next couple of weeks here as the tournament progresses, and
I'll try to remember not to doze off or arrange views.
Oh, that's okay.
It's all good.
Well, Dave knows this. I mean, what was it, a couple nights ago? Last second, I'm going to be doing the fight preview, the fight program for Mike Tyson and Jake Paul.
Oh my God.
Yeah, yeah. Last second, but it's a huge affair. They're expecting 80,000.
I can believe it.
80,000
Wow.
at AT&T Stadium. It's going to be Friday night, November 15th.
Not
And
only were go
for a
ahead.
while, it's going to be on Netflix, but for a while there, I thought maybe this was not going to be a real fight. But I spoke to two people today that were out of the gym, that work out of the same gym as Tyson. And I spent time with Mike up in New York. I had some one-on-one time with Tyson, and he spoke to me about this rejuvenation and how he's found a fountain of youth. He says, but I only need it for maybe about a minute or a minute and a half. And he's 58. He's 58, and he's old. They're not fighting with 8-ounce gloves. But he is training as if he was training for Evander Holyfield. He's
Wow.
training as if he
Wow.
was training for Lennox Lewis. And also, let's be realistic here. The three of us, God bless us. If Mike Tyson were to hit any of us,
Oh well, yeah, it's over
I think
with.
we'd be dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here, Jake Paul, I'll give Jake Paul credit. I mean, he's really turned this YouTuber thing into a boxing lifestyle. He trains like a fighter. He's working towards this. He's working very hard. Um, but 58 or no 58, if I'm in a bar, let me ask you two this. If you're in a bar and you're in the middle of a bar brawl, who do you want in front of you? Mike Tyson or Jake Paul?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, hey, listen, Joe, we gotta
Tyson.
get the District 11 in here. We'll talk boxing next time around with you. We'll talk that first.
All right, guys.
All right,
Thank you
man.
for
Okay,
Thanks
coming
a
guys.
on,
lot,
Joe.
Joe.
Okay.
We'll see
All
you
right. Thank
later.
you.
See
All
ya.
right.
Okay.
Bye
All
now.
right.
But anyway, okay, Dave, back to
We're
football.
running a little overtime.
Run a little. All right,
And you
let's.
have another show, right?
I do, right. Well, I'm
Yeah,
I'm running
so
into the
well,
back of another show that I had 2 hours in
yeah.
between. But anyway, well, let's talk about 6A in District 11.
Yeah,
And
I mean, really, this week the main game is Nazareth Emmaus. Emmaus is coming off a big win against Parkland, 27 nothing. But you look at the three other games, you like Easton in that, you like Freedom in that, and I like Parkland to beat Liberty. If Liberty's quarterback was eligible to play in this game, you might give Liberty a better chance, but
mhm,
since he can't play, you like Parkland. But that Emmaus Nazareth game is going to be a good one. It's going to be a toss up. But I'll tell you what, Easton's back. Seneca, he's got to be,
I think
you
this is a
know,
total toss up. I really do. I
yeah,
think that any of the top 6 seeds, I think, have an opportunity to win this.
they do. But I like I could see Easton Freedom battling for the right to play District 12.
Wow, interesting. So in 5A, um, yeah, I mean, East Stroudsburg South, I mean, the prohibitive favorite.
Yeah, they are. It's going to be South versus Whitehall. They played earlier in the year. I think South won like 38-7. I was at that game. Whitehall had 3, 4 players out.
Mhm.
Matt Waters knows that when they would play a rematch down the road, it's going to be a different game. So if there is an upset, this could be the bracket that maybe Whitehall finds a way to knock off East Stroudsburg South for the championship. But we'll find out. I mean, right now you have to give East Stroudsburg South a slight edge to win this bracket.
And look, obviously, I mean, from a in 4A, it's totally not the usual suspects.
Yeah, I mean, there's only 4 teams in it, and that's why you have a 0-10 Pleasant Valley, who's played teams tough. Don't go by their record. They've played teams tough, but East Stroudsburg South should take care of business, and Whitehall the same, and I that's gonna be the finals next week.
Right. And in 4A here, like I said, not the usual suspects here. You got what, four teams, 4 and 6, one 5 and 5, a 3 and 7. Southern Lehigh at 8 and 2, and Blue Mountain, okay, a resurgent Blue Mountain program, 7 and 2 here in 4A. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Blue Mountain beat Southern Lehigh earlier in the year, and that was kind of a wake-up call for Southern Lehigh. Allentown Central Catholic, a lot of injuries. Bethlehem Catholic is the one that kind of intrigues me. Because they play a lot of 6A teams.
They play a tough schedule.
They play a tough schedule. I would not doubt if Becca is playing Southern Lehigh
Really?
for the district title.
Wow.
I think Becca could possibly knock off and upset Blue Mountain the next round.
Interesting. I like those bold predictions. And in three,
I'm sure I'm
and
going
it
to get some emails.
That's all right. Well, look, that's what these podcasts are for our
That's
opinions,
right. Yep.
Northwest Lehigh, pretty hard to imagine that they're not going to come out of here, but Notre Dame Green Pond's going to have a lot to say about that, right?
Yeah, and I'll be at that game Friday. The last time they matched up, North Schuylkill won on the very last play to knock off Notre Dame at their place. Well, this time around, it's at Notre Dame. You got that revenge factor. These two teams have been battling the last 5 years. I like Notre Dame, the home team, to win a close one against North Schuylkill and play Northwestern Lehigh, who should take care of business. And I'll tell you what, if that is the matchup, that is going to be one heck of a game. Notre Dame's offense versus Northwestern Lehigh's defense.
Can't shortchange 2A. What a spectacular season it has been for so many
Oh man.
teams in 2A. Schuylkill Haven, the number one, seed scoring machine. Williams Valley, historically, dominating this. Minersville, another good season. You can't discount Northern Lehigh. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean Northern Lehigh's had a good year. But yeah, you're right. I mean, Schuylkill Haven, they are just firing in all cylinders. They're gonna run the ball. They don't pass. You know what's coming. Try to stop it. They have two, three, you know, deep, running backs that they could throw at any given night. And I like Schuylkill Haven in the top part of the bracket, and I like Williams Valley in the lower part. And I think that could be a heck of a matchup. It was a matchup earlier I think late September where Schuylkill Haven won a close game 38-30 against them. So I know Williams Valley would love to have that rematch.
Yeah, it really matters in the winter go home games, obviously. And in 1A, I mean, it's the kind of like I said, the 11-2 thing there. Lackawanna Trail, Tri Valley, Marian Catholic. Um, Pretty hard to imagine that it wouldn't be Lackawanna Trail coming out of there.
Yeah, I mean, I think Lackawanna Trail is just too much for any of the three teams there, and I think it's their, sub-region to win, and I like Lackawanna Trail to kind of make a deep run this year.
Yeah, and wow. I mean, we went through, you talk about
Woo!
in-depth coverage.
We probably
Uh
could have had another half hour or so to get a little
well,
more in, but listen,
we could have.
we did a great job with that. I think Chris breaking down District 2, Matt breaking down District 4, and we'll have Joe on to get a little
Yeah, he's
more
got District
time.
12 he's going to have to
Yeah,
deal with, yet.
yeah. And really District 12's really going to get going this week, so we could touch base with them next week and kind of break down the recap from this past weekend.
We'll get a lot more in depth in District 3 next week as well. District 3
Absolutely.
really gets going next week with really all of the teams and all of the brackets playing next week. We kind of
Yeah.
get, it was kind of the truncated version there for District 3, but
Yeah.
it'll get moving, and that's because we had our guests, as you pointed out, very special guests, and that's what we're trying to do on this show: get the experts talking to the fans about what's really going to happen, right?
Absolutely. And you know, as the weeks get closer to Cumberland Valley, we'll have more guests on, whether it's our reporters are out there or reporters all over the state. And definitely stay tuned, when we do our state, championship show with Ian and all his
And probably
ma
Bob, yeah.
Yep, yep, and all his brackets and info they'll have out there. We'll break down all the games, but hey, districts are here. The road to Cumberland Valley starts now.
Yes, it does. And really coming up at 9:30, it's the WPIL Blitz Show with
Yeah,
myself and
you better
Ian
take a deep
McMeans.
breath.
Yeah, I know. Well, look, it makes sense for everybody in the eastern side to get a sneak preview at who you're going to be facing in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, Ian and you will be breaking down, District 7 and maybe talking about some of the other
State
teams out
rankings,
there.
our state rankings, and
Yeah,
everything else. So pretty crazy. Well, listen, Dave, thanks so much, man. You're the
yeah.
best.
Thank you, and I hope everyone enjoyed the show, and we'll be back next Tuesday.
Yes, we will. We will be back next Tuesday with fresh set of downs at 7:30. Bruce Badgley, Dave, Micah, and you never know who might stop by, right, Dave?
That's right.
All right, listen, thanks, Dave, and listen, appreciate all the fans out there tuning in. Don't forget, the WPIL Blitz Show coming up at 9:30 here on Sports Stream Premium YouTube channel. Check it out. Until next week, Bruce Badgley for Dave Micah. See you around, gang.